Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 17 years now, we've been asking the Frantrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show. Well, we're meeting with Felipe Martinez, the director of franchise development for the Estrella Insurance franchise opportunity. Estrella Insurance is a property and casualty insurance agency with over 175 locations in Florida, California, Arizona, Colorado, Texas, Massachusetts, North Carolina, and coming to a location near you. We're going to talk to Felipe about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 17 years now, we've been asking the Frantrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting with Felipe Martinez, the director of franchise development for the Estrella Insurance franchise opportunity. And Estrella Insurance is a property and casualty insurance agency with over 175 locations in Florida, California, Arizona, Colorado, Texas, Massachusetts, and North Carolina. Hi, Felipe. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Marty, thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine, Felipe. We always like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning?
I am calling you from a sunny downtown Miami.
Oh, I see. I knew you were going to rub it in, Felipe. I'm in Easton, Pennsylvania, and it's cold and it's wet, and we got a lot of snow over the weekend, so I'm a little bit envious.
I hope to send some heat your way, Marty. If not, come down and visit.
Thank you, Felipe. Like I said, it's great to have you on the show. Maybe we can kind of go back to the beginning, Felipe, because, Estrella Insurance really has a long history, and maybe we could talk about, how it all started and maybe some of the highlights over the decades.
Sure, Marty. It is quite in fact, a long history, a long family history. The company started well over 40 years ago in 1980.
Yeah. Wow.
Our founder, his name is Nicholas Estrella, a Cuban immigrant, came here to the U.S. seeking a better life and opportunities like so many, right? And he got here, natural salesman. He got started in the life insurance business, door-to-door guy, very successful. When auto insurance becomes mandatory, he goes that route. He converts his entire business model to that, to generating volume, and that was very successful. For 27 years, he grew it to about 40 corporate agencies in South Florida primarily, starting with auto insurance and then selling many products like commercial insurance, home insurance. In fact, 7 years after founding, he was so successful, he founded his own insurance company, per se, which is still in operation. So that went on for a while, 27 years, up until 2008, when we realized we kind of had our model set. We knew where to open, we knew how to grow the business, how to expand it, and we converted in 2008. We really never looked back. We converted all corporate outlets to franchises, mostly providing opportunities to employees, and we continue to this day be dedicated solely to that, to maintaining the franchise system, continuing to grow it. As of a little bit under a year, we're now part of an organization called Confi, which is the largest personal lines brokerage in the U.S. So that's a little bit of how we started and where we are today, and we continue to remain solely dedicated really to franchising. We have owners from so many backgrounds, not necessarily insurance, but many business and marketing backgrounds. A lot of first-time business owners. We're so used to kind of gearing people up to being the owner and making them transition from employees. So, it's a little bit of how we started and where we are now. Now we expanded out of Florida into we're in a total of 7 other states. We just opened up in Massachusetts, North Carolina. We're about to open up in Illinois and New York. So we continue the expansion.
That's great. It's interesting, Felipe, because we have so many different concepts on the show. We've been hosting the show now for 17 years, and your industry, and thinking about it, it's so different because you use the key word, mandatory. I mean, people have to have insurance. It's not a choice or it's not even a want. It's a need. It's a must. It's something that you must have, and that certainly puts your industry at an advantage, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It's something that has allowed us to endure over 40 years in business, to adjust to the changes in the industry. Yeah, it's a tremendous advantage that we have on that side. It's what allows us to build a legacy business.
Yeah, absolutely. And, another advantage, and thinking of too, Felipe, is no inventory. That's a nice advantage too, isn't it?
Big advantage. No inventory, no equipment, so naturally better on the margins. And there's a lot of ways to start this business, from several people on staff to even just a simple owner-operator. So a lot of adjustments can be made depending on the local market and the investor and the capital and the ambition and whatnot.
Right. What's you mentioned, it seems like when I'm thinking of Estrella, Felipe, it has that family concept. And, I'm thinking, so what kind of how do you distinguish yourself perhaps from other insurance companies that are out there?
Well, it has a lot to do with, first of all, the branding that we have and the history that the company has been around. But I think the most important team and the aspect is the people, is really the team that we have here. We have many people on staff that have been part of our organization for well over 20 years. And we're only dedicated to franchising, right? So all of the operational support, marketing teams, development, it's all geared towards the franchisee. So we take a franchisee focus first and foremost, right? There's other advantages, like the way that we handle certain revenue splits that can be more advantageous than what we see in most of competitive insurance franchises. And the relationship that we have with insurance carriers really trickles down to the franchisees. So this ensures that they're competitive, that they can offer flexible coverage and flexible pricing to the customers, right? So this is all a little part of what makes the system work and what has led us to success.
And it's interesting, too, because you really don't, I recall reading or listening to a previous interview with you, Felipe, is that your franchisees, they really don't need any experience in the insurance industry, do they? But I guess they would need a license, though, right?
They do need a license, which in most states is relatively easy to obtain. You know, what I tell folks is that this is a fast-paced social environment. I mean, you're helping communities insure some of the most valuable assets in their life, things that we sometimes take for granted, right? Like the vehicles that get us to work, the homes where we live, the businesses. So this is really a business geared for folks who like building teams, who enjoy following sales processes, and they're really driven by connecting with the community and providing a great customer service. And if you get those things right, this can be a very profitable business.
It's nice to have all the revenue streams, too, Felipe. You mentioned originally, I guess, when the founder started the organization, I guess it was predominantly auto insurance. And so I see today that you have these other revenue streams, whether it's home insurance, commercial, business, life and health. That's certainly an advantage, isn't it?
It is. It allows us to not only drive more revenue to the bottom line of the franchisees and help keep them profitable, but it creates a better relationship with the customer. The more lines of insurance we have with them, we're also increasing the retention rate, right? So this is all part of the difference that we offer to the customer, whether it's in person, on the phone, or on the internet.
Right. I saw, too, I think it was on your website, Felipe, it mentioned 87% of adults in the United States purchase auto insurance. So I'm kind of like just thinking about your industry. So your industry would want, as the United States grows and gets bigger, that your industry grows with it as well, doesn't it?
It does. You know, property and casualty on a national level, latest statistic, is about $776 billion.
Wow.
So it's a very large, well-established business, but it continues to remain somewhat fragmented between different chains or national brands or a lot of local mom and pops. So when it always allows a great system and brand like ours to be able to achieve market share. Right. But it's very large industry, and I think we have been seeing some advantages. I think we can all testify that insurance prices continue to increase. And naturally, the higher the premiums in most of these metropolitan markets, the better the agencies receive in terms of commissions. So you know, and then people continue to migrate to the country, and the need for insurance only continues to increase. The need of more excessive coverage to cover different kinds of events continues to increase. Because
you work with a lot of prospective franchisees, Felipe, what types of characteristics do you look for when you're meeting with a prospective franchisee that you say, okay, I think this person would be a good match for our organization? What's important to you?
I'd say number one on the list is going to be a positive attitude. You know, we can teach insurance here, we can teach management and everything that we do through training, but changing somebody's attitude, to me, is practically impossible. So a positive attitude for me is number one. If you're more concerned about how you're going to fail, you probably have already failed, you know. To me, social and interpersonal skills here are crucial to serve the clients, to build and retain the teams, providing a customer service, and just being a warm person. You know, I always ask people, do you like getting up in the morning and dealing with people? Because if you don't, this might not be the business for you. We look for team players. We really look for team players as well. We want them to meet the team. We want both sides to feel comfortable, for it to be a good cultural fit. And then you've got things that are mostly applied to franchising, like a willingness to follow our system, being properly capitalized, and having a solid business plan, and having a commitment and a passion for the brand and for servicing the communities, because we want them to be a trusted part of the community.
That's great. What's the training like, Felipe, once they do decide, you know, that they would like to become a franchisee and you like them and approve them? I mean, do they typically come down to Florida? How does that work?
Yeah, we normally do 2 weeks of corporate training in Florida, and then we'd like to do for them to learn the theory. And then we do 4 weeks of hands-on training at one of our agencies, whether that's in Florida or in another one of the states that we're in. We like to learn the theory and apply it, and then from then on we continue the training with our operations team and take them from grand opening up to expanding to multiple units. Many franchisees, over 50%, have more than one unit, so it's very common. So very, very thorough, up to 6 weeks in the beginning, and then you've got a lot of support from the operations staff.
That's great. That's so important. How would you describe a typical day for somebody saying, this sounds like something I would be interested in terms of franchising, Felipe? How would you describe a typical day for an Estrella Insurance franchisee? I'm sure every day is a little bit different, which is kind of nice, but there's probably some similarities as well.
Sure. So it's a very social and fast-paced environment when you're in an agency, right? You get in, you greet the team. Again, you're building a team here, so you want to be setting goals and expectations for the staff. Somebody walks in, you might be dealing with the leads that you received after hours, whether those were online leads, phone leads. So we're either handling the sale of new business, whether it's inbound or outbound. We're handling renewals. We're handling referrals and leads generated by marketing. This is all done by setting the right processes, right? And the franchisee is going to be a little bit in the trenches in the beginning as they learn through this, but really after that, they're leading a team, right? And it's just a very fast-paced social environment office.
That's great. You've been involved in franchising for quite some time now, Felipe. So when I have someone on the show like yourself, I have to ask you, because there's so many different franchise opportunities out there. I recently learned, I think the number recently hit I think it was 4,000 in the United States alone. So for our listeners, when they're considering buying a franchise, they're a little bit overwhelmed in the beginning because they say, oh my God, there's all these different industries, there's all these different franchise systems. Where do I begin? From everything you've learned up to this point, what advice would you give to our listeners then in their quest to buy a franchise? How do they start?
Great question, Marty. And there's a lot. And there's franchise opportunities. Then you've got franchise brokers. So it's a lot of things to sort through. My advice to entrepreneurs would be not to be solely guided by your emotions. I think that can be a mistake that I see folks make, right? Just because you love dogs doesn't mean you're going to love the dog business, right? You want to align your skill sets and your career skills with the opportunity. You want to certainly get to know the franchisor and the team. A lot of folks sometimes can be wanting to review a franchise disclosure document, and that's fine. But a franchise disclosure document is not going to present to you the company, the culture, the team, the franchisee. So there is a lot more than the item 19 in a disclosure document. You want I always tell people to analyze the end customer. Do you enjoy working with that end customer?
Right.
You want to be conservative with your financials. You want to be open with the franchisor. And I think people need to be brutally honest with themselves, as they review the different businesses, the financials. I think they need to also consider their spouse in the decision.
Well said.
If the franchise aligns with their personal goals, whether they want to build equity, they want to leave something for their kids. And I think I would also ask them to look at the long term. A lot of folks focus on the short term and are not maybe thinking of the 5 to 10 year plan, possibly an exit strategy. And most importantly to me is if they're willing to put in the work. I think folks sometimes may have misconceptions about franchising, and sometimes the whole semi-absentee line that can be kind of pitched out there. I've never been a big fan of that. I think that any franchise really needs an involved owner. And then, and I would tell them finally to look at the franchisor and how they operate their business. I mean, are they focused on the franchisee's profitability, right? Are they driving the revenue from royalties or just from selling franchises? So those are a few pointers that I like to give folks when they're exploring the industry.
It's quite a story when you think about it. When the founder, Felipe, he comes from Cuba, and he starts this business, and you see where Estrella is today. I mean, I don't even know if my numbers are accurate, but I think today it looks like you're about over 175 locations. I wonder if this was even his vision. Did he realize how big Estrella was actually going to become?
Now we're at 201 as of actually 2 days ago. We just opened up another unit
That's great.
On the east coast of Florida or in Melbourne. I don't think he quite envisioned the franchising route. You know, there was a lot of team members here. There is, in fact, one particular individual, Jose Merille, who brought a lot of experience from franchising into the mix. And we continue to expand in other states. You know, we started kind of from an immigrant family, and we actually continue to do that. We've actually expanded our franchise opportunity to foreign investors that are able to obtain investment visas, come into the country legally, and build a business for themselves and their family. So those are a few of the things that we do. We continue to expand the product mix. We write business like health insurance. We do pet insurance. Just had a franchisee from Houston call me the other day. He wanted to attend the pet expo, and he went, started offering the pet insurance products. So it's just such a large market. There's so many opportunities to create referrals, attend shows in the community, you know. So we continue to learn from the franchisees, being driven by them. We refine our model based on them and what works and how we can help them continue expansion. Ultimately, when they thrive, so do we.
It's interesting. Your market in itself is huge when we're just talking about people, but even then, if we're thinking even about pets, I mean, how many dogs and cats there are in the United States alone? It seems like the possibilities are endless for a franchisee, Felipe. Oh
yeah, it's such a big market that, in fact, most franchisees, you can't really grab everything. There's simply too much lines of insurance out there. So we tend to get a little bit more specialized to the mandatory products, you know. But as the business grows, as the knowledge grows, so does the expansion of different products and offerings that we bring to the customer.
That's great. What's speaking of the future, Felipe, what if you can look into a crystal ball, whether the crystal ball is 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I mean, where do you see Estrella in the future, expanding all across the United States?
I see us entering several new states. I see us continuing to expand in the states that we are in, right? We're about to open in Massachusetts, North Carolina, Illinois, New York. So the room for expansion in a lot of these markets is tremendous. Many of the states that we're already in, like Florida, Texas, Colorado, there is continued need for insurance and for more growth. We continue to remain dedicated to a franchisee-first model. We're not in the business of competing our franchisees with the franchisees. So, and continue to refine the model. And ultimately, the insurance industry is not static. It changes, and we really work together with the boots on the ground, which is our franchisees, to help adjust the model to them and to continue bring it to the other people that want to come on board and are the right fit.
That's fantastic. What's the best way, Felipe, for our listeners to get more information on Estrella Insurance? Are there any websites you can kind of direct them to?
Sure. So we have our main website, which is going to be estrellafranchise.com. I can also be reached directly at 786-522-7640, and my personal email as well, which is felipe.martinez@estrellainsurance.com.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm so excited that I had the opportunity to finally get to speak to you, Felipe, because I've been involved in franchising a long time now, and I've been very familiar with the Estrella brand. And so to finally have the opportunity to interview you has been a privilege. And I would like to invite you back over the next year or two as you continue to grow, because I think this is a wonderful franchise opportunity.
Thank you so much, Marty. I've been able to follow you as well, and it's really a pleasure to be here with you. It's an honor, and I hope to keep in touch and continue to listen in on your show.
Thank you so much, Felipe. It's been a pleasure. And we'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up in our next segment, we're going to be playing a clip from our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com. Or you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott, the president of Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, we've been hosting Franchise Interviews many years now, and during that time we've had some incredible quotes on our show. Today's great quote in franchising comes from Tom Kraus, the CEO of Donato's Pizza. And Donato's is a family-owned, privately held company that treats franchise partners like they're part of their family. In this Great Quote in Franchising podcast, Tom discusses the importance of directing your energy to the right place, and he uses a great analogy called batteries not included. So let's go right into our podcast with Tom Kraus, CEO of Donato's Pizza. What advice would you give them in their quest to buy a franchise?
You know, I think the whole key is putting the right resources in the right spot. So I'll use a quote from one of my old bosses at Wendy's, Jim Neer, who he always talked about batteries not included. And what he meant by that was, you know, if you're going to be a franchisee or a franchise partner, as we call them, you're buying into a system that exists. So don't put your energy trying to change the system or change the recipe or like work that side of the system. Put your energy in bringing your whole self into the business. Bring your energy into leading your people. Bring the energy into building the business in the community or giving back to the community. I've noticed those that are less successful don't put their energy into that, but they're trying to revise something that already is a part of the operating plan that, you know, maybe it's not perfect, but if you're spending your time trying to change the recipe or the operating system, maybe franchising isn't what you want to do. Maybe you want to start your own restaurant. And so I think the key, but more importantly, I think is batteries aren't included. So put your whole energy into building a culture within the organization and building a reputation in the community. That's where you'll win every time. You'll win every time.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice. I love that analogy, batteries not included. It's about trust, isn't it, Tom? You know, I mean, if you're going to invest into a system, you know, like Donato's, is you have to have that level of trust, don't you? You know, in order to.
Yeah, you really do. And you know, it's not to say that, you know, we really do a lot of collaborating with our franchise system. We have an advisory council, and we meet regularly, and we get advice from them, and they help guide the business. But once we've decided, you know, what the program is or whatever, let's go ahead and just execute that program. So
Right. Absolutely. That's fantastic. If you'd like to hear that whole interview with Tom Kraus of Donato's Pizza, all you have to do is go to franchiseinterviews.com, go to our franchises listed alphabetically page, and then go to the D section. Or you can go to our franchises listed by category page and go to our food section. And lastly, we would just like to thank everyone for making our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast such a big hit. Since we've launched our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast, we've had 72,671 downloads, 37,888 RSS clicks, and 727 shared links. So once again, we'd just like to thank everyone for listening, and we'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.